Welcome back to Social Security Post. If you've ever wondered why your supplemental security income SSI check drop happened, after you moved in with someone, started receiving free rent, or got groceries from a family member, this video will give you the straight, no jargon explanation. And if you have a specific situation, like I moved in with my daughter, they pay utilities, what happens to my check? Drop it in the comments below. I'll answer as many as possible. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Social Security Post for this new series on SSI and Social Security Disability Insurance, SSDI benefits and changes. Today's topic is especially important because one of the most confusing rules in SSI is the so-called ISM rule, in-kind support and maintenance. And we're going to unpack exactly how free rent, food, or shelter from someone else may affect your SSI check, what recent changes you need to know, including what SSA decided in 2024, and how you can protect your payment going forward. By the end of this video, you'll be able to answer 3 big questions. What counts as ISM? What changed recently? And what steps can I take now to keep my full SSI check? So let's dive right in. In-kind support and maintenance, ISM, is a special kind of income under SSI rules. But it's tricky because it isn't cash. Instead, ISM is non-cash assistance someone gives you that helps meet your shelter or food needs, such as free rent, utilities paid by someone else, or meals provided by a friend. Because SSI is a needs-based program with strict income limits. SSA treats ISM as unearned income and may reduce your monthly payment when someone else picks up your rent or utilities. Under the old rules, ISM could include both food and shelter. However, since SSA's final rule published March 27, 2024, and effective September 30, 2024, food assistance is no longer counted toward ISM. That means if someone buys your groceries or covers your meals, that alone no longer triggers an ISM reduction. Shelter assistance, like someone paying your rent, utilities, mortgage, gas, water, or sewer, still counts. Final rule: omitting food from in-kind support and maintenance calculations. This is important because it simplifies the rules. ISM now only applies when someone else helps you with shelter. Also, there are 2 key rule branches for valuing shelter help. The value of 1/3 reduction, VTR, rule, and the presumed maximum value, PMV rule. If you live in someone else's household and they pay your rent and all your meals, the VTR might apply and your SSI payment is reduced by 1/3 of the federal benefit rate. Meanwhile, if you receive shelter help but not all meals, the PMV caps the reduction at 1/3 of the FBR plus $20, unless you can show a lower actual value. So simply put, food help equals good, no longer counted. Shelter help equals could reduce your check unless you pay rent or prove it's a true business arrangement. Knowing which rule you fall under helps you plan. Every SSI recipient should know the federal benefit rate, FBR, and how the ISM rules use it. For 2025, the FBR is $967 per month for an individual. That means in standard ISM calculations, the starting point is this number. The PMV rule says the presumed maximum value of shelter assistance is 1/3 of the FBR plus the general income exclusion, $20. 1/3 of $967 is about $322.33. So adding $20 gives a PMV of about $342.33 per month. This means if you receive someone else's shelter help and don't rebut it, SSA may count up to $342.33 as unearned income, reducing your SSI by that amount. In the VTR scenario, which applies when you live in someone else's home and they provide all your meals and shelter, SSA reduces your payment by exactly 1/3 of the FBR. For 2025, that's approximately $322.33. So you end up with an SSI check that is the full FBR minus $322.33. Net approximately $644.67 if only the federal SSI applies. Why does it matter? because knowing these numbers helps you evaluate whether the help you're receiving triggers ISM and to what extent your check will be reduced. For example, if your total shelter value from someone else is less than $342.33, then your reduction might be less than full PMV. If you pay fair market rent equal or above that amount, and it's a true business arrangement, you may avoid ISM altogether. Keeping these numbers in mind helps you negotiate living arrangements, coordinate with relatives, and avoid surprises. One of the most beneficial recent changes is that the Social Security Administration officially removed food assistance from ISM calculations as of September 30th, 2024. That means if a parent buys you groceries, you eat meals at no cost, or a charity covers your food, it no longer counts as unearned ISM income under SSA. This change simplifies eligibility and protects recipients who rely on informal food assistance. Final rule: omitting food from ISM calculations, 89 FR 21,199. Before this change, food help could trigger ISM reductions and complicate cases severely. Imagine receiving groceries weekly and seeing your SSI reduced. Now that food is excluded, you no longer need to report every meal someone gives you, though you still may be asked whether you receive all meals, when SSA decides whether to apply VTR or PMV. But the food removal does not mean all help is safe. The shelter component remains very much in effect. In addition, SSA also finalized an expansion of the rental subsidy policy in April 2024, effective September 30, 2024. So now when you rent at fair market value or above what's called the presumed maximum value in all states, not just certain states, you may avoid ISM under the business arrangement exception. These changes combined mean 1, that many people will pay less attention to food being counted, and 2, that proper documentation of rent and utilities is more important than ever. Scenario A: you move in with your adult child. They don't charge you any rent, but they pay the mortgage, utilities, and your share of the household budget. Under SSI rules, because you don't pay fair market value rent and someone else pays your shelter help is countable. If you also receive all your meals from them, the VTR, 1/3 reduction, applies. So your SSI would be reduced by approximately $322 per month, 2025, unless you can meet the rebuttal criteria. Scenario B: you pay your adult child rent of $400 per month, fair market rate. You live in their home, but you pay the full rent monthly. In many states, this qualifies as a business arrangement, and ISM might not apply, meaning your SSI stays at full FBR. Documentation like a lease, proof of market rent, and timely payments protect you. Scenario C: you live with a friend who covers rent and utilities partially and buys some meals. You pay some utilities but nothing for rent. Under the PMV rule, SSA presumes the value of your shelter help at approximately $342.33 per month. Your SSI gets reduced by that unless you can show the value is less. For example, the rent difference is only $150. In this case, you might end up with a reduced check unless you gather proof of actual contributions. One smart strategy to protect your SSI is when the shelter help you receive is a loan rather than a gift. For SSA to treat it as a loan and not count it as ISM, 3 conditions must be satisfied. 1. The loan agreement must be in effect when the help is provided. 2. There must be an unconditional obligation for you to repay under state law. And 3, the repayment plan must be feasible given your finances. If these conditions are met, the help isn't considered unearned income. For example, suppose your sister says, "I'll pay your rent for you, but you'll repay me $100 per month from your future SSI other income." If you formalize that in writing, starting before she pays the rent, and you keep repayment records, SSA is much less likely to count it as ISM. On the other hand, if you wait until after she starts paying and then call it a loan, SSA may reject the loan treatment and reduce your benefits. This strategy emphasizes documentation, a written note before any rent payment begins, clear repayment terms, steady repayment schedule, and retention of receipts showing your payments. If you can show the help is a loan, your SSI check may be fully protected, even though someone else is covering your shelter costs. Your full SSI payment may include both the federal SSI amount and a state supplementary payment, SSP, if your state offers it. Many states adjust the amount depending on your living arrangement code, for instance, living alone with others in a public institution, etc. Since ISM is a federal rule, it affects the federal portion, but the total check you receive may change dramatically if your living arrangement code flips, or if your state recalculates SSP accordingly. For instance, living alone might qualify you for higher SSP than living with family members. If SSA changes your living arrangement code because they determine you're receiving ISM assistance, your SSP might drop, giving the appearance of a cut even if federal SSI stays the same. That's why sometimes people say my check dropped, when in reality the change was behind the scenes in their living arrangement, or ISM classification. Bottom line, always consider both the federal and state components, and monitor any change in living arrangement code, like going from alone to living with others who provide shelter. That change often triggers a review of ISM and may reduce your total monthly payment, even if you didn't receive additional help. If you live in someone else's home or receive help with rent or utilities, you must report changes in your living arrangement no later than the 10th day after the end of the month in which the change occurred. Failing to report in time can trigger overpayments and reduction of future SSI payments. Timely reporting lets SSA evaluate whether you now receive ISM and protect you from surprises. If SSA determines you receive ISM and reduces or terminates your payment, you have due process rights. You'll receive a written notice of decision which explains the change and your right to appeal. If you appeal within 60 days, you may request payment continuation. If you file your appeal within the first 10 days after the notice, you'll normally keep receiving the full payment until the reconsideration decision, unless SSA determines your case is clearly without merit. This means documentation and quick action matter. Always keep records of your living arrangement, contributions you make, rent utility payments, the date you moved or changed households, and any letters you receive. These records can make the difference between avoiding a reduction or successfully appealing one. Start a folder, paper or digital, titled Living Arrangement ISM and include your lease or rent agreement showing you pay market value, proof of monthly payments, rent receipts, bank statements, utility bills and your contribution amounts, signed statement if someone covers part of rent. If you are documenting a loan, bring the written loan note and repayment record, and any correspondence with SSA about your living arrangement. When you talk to SSA, use clear language. I pay dollars, weeks, and rent each month, which is fair market value for my unit in this area. If someone else helps you, ask, have I paid rent that equals or exceeds the lease rate? Is there a business arrangement in place? Also ask, can we examine my pro rata share of household operating expenses? Being proactive and clear often forestalls mistakes. If you move, change contribution amounts, or someone different starts covering utilities, report that change immediately. Include the effective date. If you ever receive a notice from SSA saying we have determined you receive ISM and your check will be reduced, don't ignore it. You have 60 days to appeal. Submit a concise statement with your documentation and ask for payment continuation if you're within the first 10 days after notice. As of November 9th, 2025, the key change, food exclusion, is already in effect. However, SSA is still evaluating other tweaks to ISM and living arrangement rules, so stay tuned. If you'd like us to cover what happens if SSA rolls back, the business arrangement exception, or how living with family versus friends is treated differently in X state? Let me know in the comments. Remember, Your SSI payment is a lifeline, and understanding ISM could save you hundreds of dollars each month. If this video helped you, hit that like button, share it with someone who might need it, and subscribe to Social Security Posts so you don't miss upcoming segments in this series.